Um, Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Cybersecurity for Small Business. I'm Jolene Carey Pace, the Program Coordinator at the Wilkes University Small Business Development Center, and I'm thrilled that all of you could join us this afternoon, and thank you all for being so patient. Before we begin, I would like to thank Ryan for partnering with us and sharing his presentation today. Just a quick note to please put yourselves on mute so that we can avoid any background noise. And as we go along, you can type any questions that you might have into the chat box, and there will also be time at the end of the presentation to ask questions. And now I will turn the program over to Ryan. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody, glad to see you guys. Sorry for the little technical hiccup. I'm sure, as you guys all know, with 800 different video chat solutions that we're all using these days, it can be a little difficult. I'm going to share my screen here. You're actually sharing your screen, Jolie?
Oh, I am?
Or no, Gerald is.
Oh,
Gerald, you might want to, we're looking at your email.
Gerald, if you can unshare your screen.
All right, let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes, we are good, Ryan.
Excellent. So thank you, everyone. I am Ryan Cloutier. I am the Principal Security Consultant for Security Studio. I serve in a variety of different volunteer capacities, one of which was working with Wilkes University on a educator curriculum program where we introduce cybersecurity and cybersecurity concepts. So I'm really grateful to be here today. I'm going to move a little quick. Please do ask questions as we go, but basically today what I'm going to give you is some high-level tips on how to keep your business safe from cybercrime. As we are all living in this COVID era, and we've really changed how we work, how we're serving our customers, and some of the risks that we now face today in this remote life, maybe were not as prevalent of risks even, say, 6 months ago. So we're going to kind of talk through this. The goal today is to give you the tips and tricks that you need to secure your business, to secure your customers, but also to secure your personal life. So a little bit about Security Studio very quickly. We are security experts on a mission. We are a values-based, mission-driven, vision-driven organization. Everything that we do is ultimately to serve our mission, and our mission is a very small one. We want to fix the broken information security industry. So, you know, not much work to do there. I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek, but that is why we exist. Quick background on myself. Again, I'm Ryan Cloutier. I am a certified information systems security professional. What that means to you is that I possess the highest accreditation that one can achieve in the world of cybersecurity. To give you some perspective, there's 140,000 of us that have successfully passed the exam. And I believe the last count that I heard was around 2 to 3 million that have taken the test. So you can imagine this is a very grueling exam, and it is really meant to show who's at the top of the game. I've been doing this for well over 15 years. You can tell from the gray hair. Half of that's from working in cybersecurity, half of that's from raising a teenager. I'm also a virtual chief information security officer to a handful of businesses, school districts, and small governments. You can follow me on Twitter at CloutierSec. I post some interesting and entertaining stuff out there. So we're going to start with what is personal risk? And the reason we're going to start here is to kind of level set. Personal risk is anything that exposes you to the risk of harm, injury, or losing something of value. Most of us understand personal risk, but what a lot of us don't understand in our businesses and for our customers is digital risk. Well, digital risk is simply personal risk in digital form. So it's anything digital that exposes you to risk of harm, injury, or losing something of value. So for example, a lot of us take credit card payments for processing the goods and services we provide our customers. We're taking on a risk when we take in that credit card information. The customer is taking on a risk when they provide that credit card information. They're trusting that we're going to do everything possible to keep their information safe and secure. And if we're not sure on how to do that, that risk could actually be pretty significant to us, and it can impact our business. So a couple of facts that I want to cover to level set. 60% of small businesses will go out of business within 6 months of having a cyber attack. 43% of small businesses, are the target of cyber attacks. 91% of small businesses lack or have inadequate cyber insurance coverage. And just to bring all that home to you, the average cost that a small business will incur if they have a data breach or a cyber event is $2.2 million. Now, if we were in regular times, I'd say show of hands who has insurance, but I'm guessing most of you don't have a cyber-specific coverage, or if you do, it's probably inadequate for your needs. I would also ask show of hands who here has experienced a cyber attack. I would guess probably about 40% of you would raise your hand. So we ask ourselves, who is ultimately responsible? Is it my internet service provider? Is it Microsoft? Is it QuickBooks? Is it the credit card company that I bought the credit card reader from? Who is responsible? And the answer is you. You individually as a human and you individually as a business owner are ultimately responsible. Nobody else is responsible for your cyber safety, your digital security, except you. The risk that you choose to take on for yourself or for your business is very personal. And you need to protect yourself from crime. That is your responsibility. It's why you have a burglar alarm. It's why you have security cameras. We know that we can't prevent the robbery. So we do things to try to limit the chances we'll experience a robbery. We try to do things to increase the likelihood that the robbery will be unsuccessful. We do things like put bars on our windows, and we put bulletproof glass if we're in a rougher neighborhood up by the cash register to protect our employees. So all of those things that we're doing physically, we now in 2020 need to start to do digitally. The reason is that really we are living a digital life now. I would challenge anyone listening today to attempt to conduct a regular, normal day of life without a computer involved somewhere. So no driving the car, no talking on the phone, no shopping at the store, because computers are part of all of that. And the reality is that we can't, because we do live in a digital first life. So what are we going to do about that? How do we get started? Maybe you've never even heard the term cybersecurity before. So the very first step to any small business really getting their hands around this and figuring out what they're going to do to operate in this new world is knowing what your risk exposure is, knowing how at risk you are. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail. The next thing is to educate yourself on scams. Being aware of what is out there can help you to avoid it. There are many different scams, and we're actually going to cover a handful of them here today because I want to make sure you guys know, and ladies, and anyone else that identifies any certain way. I want all of you collectively to know what these scams are so that you're able to identify them. The number one thing you can do to defend yourself, your company, and your employees against cybercrime is being aware and educated on what cybercrime looks like. The next thing we'll talk about is updating your devices. It is so important to keep your devices up to date for your digital safety, but as well as the digital safety of your customers. We're going to talk about monitoring your financials. A lot of times fraud will show up in our financials, so we'll talk a bit about that. We're going to talk about doing a security triple check. This is a method that I've developed that is, if it is implemented, it is highly successful at preventing cybercrime. And lastly, we're going to talk about insurance and why that's needed. And this is all being done in the context of COVID. So we have COVID-19 happening. I do have a header slide on COVID, but I want you guys to just keep that in your mind, that how we do business today has changed because of COVID. How we're recovering economically is a challenge because of COVID. How you're going to conduct business into the future is probably a little bit different because of COVID. So knowing your risk, first question you have to ask is, are you asking the right questions before you share any information, before you're clicking, right? The number one risk to most people is still phishing. And getting in that email that's asking you to provide information or your customer receiving an email that appears to come from your business asking for sensitive information, right? This can be how the bad guys, the criminals, get into your system. So asking yourself, am I asking the right questions? Is this real? Does this make sense to me? And we'll go through that in a little more detail a little bit later on in the slides. One of the other questions would be, how do I stay safe from cybercrime? What are the things that I should know? And how do I learn what my risks are? So this will be the one and only slide that I put up about this. This is the S2 score. So Security Studio is a risk software company. That's what we do. We produce risk software. And we pioneered this score to make it very easy to tell how at risk you are. And it covers several different facets of your business. It covers your business itself. That's our S2 org. It covers the partners that you work with, the vendors and suppliers that you work with. That's the S2 vendor. And it covers your staff. That's the S2 me or S2 team. And the way we do that is through our free personal risk assessment. And I encourage all of you to take it. I'll put a link up at the end. But it is our S2 me, and that is our personal at-home risk assessment. It helps you and your family understand how at risk you are and what risks you have in your household. And the reason we focus on the at-home is that all employees bring their homes to work, but very few employees bring their work habits home. So because they bring their home habits to work, we want to train them to be secure at home, so they bring that to the office with them. It is a system that allows for a roadmap for improvement, and it can help you get lower rates on your cyber insurance coverage by having an S2 score. That shows your insurance company that you're taking security seriously and that you have done a proper risk assessment, which a lot of times can get you a better rate. So having said that, let's get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here today. Phishing and spam. Phishing is any type of email that you may receive or a text message or a phone call. We call text messages smishing and phone calls vishing. But the reality is it's all the same thing. It's an attempt to gain personal information from you or an attempt to try to get your logins. This is very valuable to the bad guys, so they continue to do this. Spear phishing is when that email is more targeted to the individual. So maybe the bad guy went on social media and learned something personal about yourself or one of your employees. They then use that personal information to make the email more believable. Whaling is when they are targeting the CFO, the CEO, the business owner, the business leader. That's a very specific email targeted to those folks in charge. And again, they're attempting to gain that login information. They're attempting to gain access to your financials, or they're attempting to gain access to your computers to use them as part of a larger crime that they're trying to commit. They love to use small business computers to try to hide their tracks when they're doing things like attacking larger companies or governments. And then lastly, we have impersonation. And impersonation is emails that come in appearing to be from official sources, such as your bank, the IRS, government agencies, key customers and clients. You got to be on the lookout for this stuff. The number one thing to do when you get an email that is from any official agency is not to engage the email. Do not respond to the email. Instead, call them at the publicly published number. You can find this for your bank on the back of your debit card or credit card. You can find this for the US government at any of their websites. Your bank, same thing. Their website will have their public number. Never, ever engage the email. Always pick up the phone and give them a call. Never call the phone number in the email, only the publicly published number. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples of phishing. So this is a common one. This is the Netflix scam. And in COVID, this one is highly popular because the only thing more terrifying to me than getting COVID is losing access to my Netflix. It's what's keeping me sane, and it's probably what's keeping most of you sane. A couple things that we're looking for here that let us know this is a scam is that we need to verify our account. Netflix never needs us to verify our account. You'll see language such as failure to complete this will result in a suspension. So now there's a threat involved. Anytime there's a threat involved, that's a red flag. They're going to do these things. If for some reason Netflix is unable to collect money from you, they're not going to ask you to verify your account. You're going to be able to go directly into your Netflix account and update your payment information. So never trust the email. always verify directly through the official source. Another example here is they have received instructions to delete the account. So again, the red flags here are urgency and threats. So they're giving you 24 hours to respond, so unnecessary urgency. They're threatening you with a permanent loss of your account. So again, threats. Here again, at number 3, we see there's a link, and if we hover over that link, we see that it goes to an unusual address. So that's another red flag for us. And then this not being able to reply, sent to this address cannot be answered. Again, you will see that from time to time officially on emails, but a lot of times that's also a red flag. Here's another one from Outlook. Looks very official, but in this email, we'll notice that it says Outlook team, not Outlook team. So here's our first red flag. The address that it's coming from does not appear to be legitimate. And then again, when we hover over the link, we notice that it's going to some strange address that has nothing to do with Microsoft. Okay? So again, sense of urgency, threats. What we're looking for in these emails are, do things look legitimate? Do they match? And again, if you have an issue with your Outlook, simply go to Office 365 and log in. There's no need to ever interact through an email. Here's another one from the generic My University. So again, if we really look at this stuff, it becomes very easy to see that it's not official. Dear network user, so a very generic greeting. That also is an indication that it's not official and is potentially spam. Please click this link to update your password. Again, if you need to update your password, you can log into your university, you can log into your PayPal, you can log into your QuickBooks, you can log into whatever that solution is and change the password there. Here's another one from Citibank. Your account's been blocked. You've exceeded 3 failed login attempts. To unlock your account, click here. Again, if it's from your bank, pick up the phone and call them. Never engage the emails. If you can get this ingrained in you, if you today, as you leave this session, say, you know what, from now on, I won't be doing that through the email. I will contact the official person at the official number. You will reduce your likelihood of being a victim of cybercrime by 80% just with this one skill. Here's another one from the National Security Department. Well, I looked high and low, and it turns out we don't have a National Security Department. We have a National Security Agency. They're not in the habit of sending you email. They're in the habit of collecting your email. If the National Security Agency wants to talk to you, it will be done most likely in person and probably in the back of a windowless van. So know that there are so many flavors of scams out there. There are financial fraud scams. There are tax and direct deposit scams. And this is important for you as employers to understand. A very common scam right now goes to your employee claiming to be official from you or your HR department, asking them to update their banking information. The other scam is where the scammer contacts you or the HR department claiming to be the employee looking to update the financial information. So in the first scam, they're stealing the bank account details of the employee. And in the second scam, they're stealing the money of the employee by redirecting that direct deposit to a bank account they control. There's also romance scams. While embarrassing, these are quite common and can actually fool an employee into taking action internally within your company, or inadvertently installing malware, or in some cases even being malicious because of this romance scam. And we'll look at a couple of those here in just a minute. Extortion is also very common. There's an email going around that says, I have a video of you doing things to yourself while watching videos of other people doing things to themselves. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to release all that information to your spouse, to your clergyman, to your politicians, to the public. If you get that email and you get sweaty and nervous, call me offline. Let's talk about your life choices. Otherwise, it's a scam and you can ignore it and throw it away. Okay? Charity is another area where we get hit a lot, especially during COVID, especially during COVID recovery. You're going to see a lot of scams related to small business loans. You're going to see a lot of scams related to charity related to COVID. You know, we need masks and gloves. Please donate here. You need to be very cautious. And again, if you do want to give to charity, I encourage it, but go to that official website and give it through those approved channels. Do not respond to emails. Another common scam that gets people, and the reason I'm talking about this is because your employees and yourselves, scams are the #1 way that your business is going to experience a cybercrime. It is the #1 thing that the bad guys are going to do against you to create issues that will prevent you from being able to protect your customer data. I do see a question here, so I'm going to pause for a second. So let's talk about protecting customer data from external cyber attacks. The #1 way they get in is through scams. The #2 way they get in is through poorly configured devices. That's #1 and 2. That accounts for over 90% of how they get in. Almost never do they hack your computer like you see on TV. It almost never happens. That is made up for Hollywood, and it's not how it actually works in the real world. In the real world, they manipulate you, the human, through scams and fraud. They manipulate your employees through scams and fraud. And the second most common is by exploiting your technology that is out of date and unpatched. And I'll talk more about that here in a minute. But great question. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So let's just quickly go through this. Again, here's a scam. There is no free money. Believe it or not, I deal with this every single day where a company has had their data stolen because an employee using the work email clicked on continue because they thought they won a free $1,000. Okay? Again, urgent phrasing, wording that sounds urgent. Why I'm stressing this to you is that you're the individuals responsible for training your employees on how to protect your company from cybercrime. That's why it's important that you know this well so that you can teach it well. Okay, Powerball, free lottery, doesn't happen. Here's another one from the Department of Tax Refunds. Well, we don't have an Office of Tax Refunds, we have the IRS. And again, here, they're trying to download a PDF. That PDF file has infected code in it, malicious code in it, that the bad guys are going to use to gain access to your computers to steal your customers' information. Okay, that's why this is so important. Same thing here, threats from law enforcement, okay, saying that we have this money or that you owe us money. It comes in many different forms. Again, no free money. I can't believe in 2020 that I have to preach this to grown adults, but it's true. There is no free lunch. There is no free money. Please share that with everyone that you talk to. This one is getting a lot of businesses right now. This is the parcel scam. So a lot of us are relying heavily on FedEx to conduct our business, to conduct our daily lives, or UPS or the US Postal Service, DHL, whatever your shipping company of choice is. These scams are incredibly dangerous because, again, clicking this link could infect your system and result in the theft of your customer data. And this attack starts externally. This attack starts a lot of times not even in the United States of America. Okay, so they're using this to try to gain access. You cannot follow this. What you should do instead is say, okay, I'm going to go to FedEx website and type in the tracking number. And I know I'm kind of maybe beating a dead horse for some of you, but it is so important because 25 years we've been preaching this, and 25 years later, we still have people clicking links for free lottery tickets and free Amazon gift cards. This particular scam, again, is a text scam. So not all scams come in the form of emails. It is geared around the lottery. Oh, you won the lottery. The lottery does not text you. Never happens. Okay. This one is a romance scam. Romance scams can get employees to do things that they normally wouldn't do. Romance scams a lot of times will turn into blackmail or extortion because through a romance scam, they acquire sensitive photos of the individual, maybe intimate photos, and then they threaten to expose those photos if the person doesn't install the software on your work computer. So I don't know if that's news to some of you, it may be, but this is really important because this is how they're getting in. This is the tactics of the bad guys. Okay, so here's another one. Please go buy me gift cards. Again, you don't need to buy gift cards on behalf of anyone. And this needs to be told to your employees. If you're asking your employee to buy gift cards for you, please do it in person, face to face. Let them know you're never going to send an email asking them to buy gift cards. I know several businesses that are no longer in business because of gift card scams. Here's another one about gift cards. Please go to the store for me, buy some stuff. When your employees see this, it's going to appear to them as if it's coming from you because the bad guys use that tactic. And their goal is to either get to your system to steal your data or to steal your money. I'll go through this super quick. This one basically is just check the profile. Make sure things match. If the photo doesn't match the description, if a young 20-year-old lady is interested in 40-plus-year-old men, but for as much as I hate to say it, that's a red flag. Most 20-year-old women are not interested in 40-year-old men. And you need to have a little bit of healthy skepticism with this stuff. And believe it or not, people fall for this every single day. Thousands and thousands of people a day, people that work in your businesses. And one of the ways they fall for it is that they will send fake credentials. They will claim to be from the United Nations and they will send a credential. They will claim to be from the military. They will send a credential. This is how they're trying to prove. And then the most common one we're seeing now is the COVID scams. So we are seeing a huge uptick. We have seen a 625% increase in scams in just the last 3 months. And those scams are now saying COVID. So it's get your cash payment or check on your small business loan or get PPE for your staff or donate to this charity. These are all scams that affect your people. Here's free Netflix because of quarantine. Again, I'm showing this to you guys because literal thousands of people have fallen for these exact scams I'm showing you. And if you haven't taken time to educate your staff, they don't know these are scams. And that is your biggest risk. Your next biggest risk, so to get a little technical with you guys now, is your routers, your Wi-Fi routers, your wireless routers. They are the next biggest risk to your business. Most businesses today are running on the default password that the router came with out of the box. That password is easily found on the internet. It takes a bad guy less than seconds to find out what that password is. So simply changing your default password is going to give you a huge increase in your protection. It's not hard, it doesn't take much time, but it's the number one thing you can do. And if you haven't changed your default password, then that means it's still at the default. Wi-Fi routers need to be updated. This is another thing that often gets neglected. Most people buy it, take it out of the box, put it on a shelf, and there it collects dust. They don't realize that they have to maintenance it, they have to take care of it, and they have to update it, just like you do your phone, your computer, or your car, okay? The next biggest thing you can do is separate your networks. Never let your customers or visitors onto the employee or corporate network. Use a guest network, keep them separate. Not every customer that comes into your building has good intentions. Sometimes those customers are also criminals looking to gain access to your network, especially if you're a bar or a restaurant. This is very common in bars and restaurants where you provide free Wi-Fi to your customers. Not done securely, that free Wi-Fi allows them to access your point of sale systems, allows them to access your inventory systems and your payroll systems. The other thing that you can do to limit your risk to your customers and to yourself is using content control. So your guest network should be somewhat restricted. You probably don't want your guest network being able to access the darknet. You probably don't want your guest network being able to access pornography or other things that can potentially cause your business issues, either legally, criminally, or financially. Smartphones and tablets. I'm still amazed how many people are running around with insecure devices. And this also applies to your employees. If they bring a device into your work and it's insecure and they connect it to your network, that device just became the threat to your network. So having a PIN or a password is going to make the device less susceptible to risk. Also being very thoughtful about what you install. A lot of small businesses will look for cheap or free options. Free is never free. You need to be very careful. They've just removed over 800 applications from the iTunes and Google Play Store that were known malicious spyware, malware, or other criminal software that were masquerading as legitimate applications for bookkeeping, for inventory tracking, for COVID tracking. So it's very important to be careful about what you install, okay? looks like there's a comment here about rebooting the routers. This will absolutely not prevent them from gaining access. So it is not valid. Simply power cycling the router does nothing except reset the router. If a bad guy is in when you do that, it will temporarily kick them out, but then they'll just reconnect. So power cycling isn't going to do anything for you. Changing the default password and updating the device will do something for you. Cell phones and tablets and smart devices, and a lot of us are using iPads in our businesses to run our cash registers. They are also susceptible to ransomware. They are also susceptible to viruses and malware. So it's very important to check any link prior to clicking it, especially on our cash registers. And then we want to use multi-factor authentication. So this is the thing where you get that extra text code to your cell phone, or you get a phone call. There's a second means of authenticating. While this seems inconvenient, this is actually in the top 3 things that you can do to protect yourself from cybercrime and to protect your business and ultimately the data that you have and are responsible for. So you want to use that multi-factor whenever possible. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about monitoring the money for a second. So many organizations are doing a lot of transactions, so it could be hard to notice when there are small suspicious transactions. One of the techniques that the bad guys will use is to take just a tiny bit of money, a few cents, less than $1, but they will do that every month to hundreds of thousands of people for the course of a year. That's a lot of money. So while it may seem insignificant, this can be a good indicator that something suspicious is going on. So checking those statements, looking for unusual activity, looking for small transactions, less than $1, can be an indicator something's going on. In the world of security, there is no 100% secure. Nothing I'm going to tell you today is going to make you 100% secure. That is not real. If any vendor swears to you they can make you 100% secure, please show them the door because they're lying to you. All we can do is help you to reduce your risk. And unfortunately, that means a lot of active activity on your part. That means checking those bank statements, slowing down and not clicking on a link, making sure you're updating your devices, making sure you're updating your router. But these are the steps you have to take in order to keep your customers' data safe and to keep your data safe. A good way to do this and make it a little bit easier is to set up text alerts for purchases. Anytime money is spent, I get a text. This allows me to have visibility into several things. It allows me to see when my wife is shopping on Target.com in the middle of the night and spending half my paycheck. It allows me to see when somebody is attempting to take money from me. Because I do the job I do, I actually get frauded quite a bit. I'm on credit card number 5 of the year. And that leads me to my next point. I use credit cards and not debit cards. If you are a business and you're using debit cards, know that that is not legally protected the way a credit card is. A debit card, as far as the law is concerned, is cash. A credit card, that money belongs to the credit company, and they have all the burden of proving or disproving the fraud. But when it happens on a debit card, all that burden falls to you. And while your bank may be nice and help you out, they're under no obligation to do so. The next thing is to close accounts that are no longer used. All too often, accounts are left open, but they're not active. Those accounts can then be leveraged and compromised. Maybe the bad guy wants to take over one of your accounts to then trick your customers into giving up their financial information. So there's many ways in which they can go about doing this. This one is the best slide in the deck. This is the one I want you to take pictures of, screenshots, and memorize. And it's called the security triple check. You need to check the link to see if it matches what you've expected. You need to check the sender. Is this coming from who I think it's coming from? You need to check the request. What am I being asked for? Why am I being asked this? What if it involves information or money? That's an automatic red flag. And then verify. Don't trust anything that comes in digitally. Verify it. Pick up the phone and make that call. If they're asking you to give information that you did not initiate, then it's time to get on the phone and call them. This is important to train your employees on as well. Now I'm going to give you one physical trick that works well. The human mind loves to fill in blanks. Our brain will see what it thinks should be there. So when doing the security triple check, actually physically turn away and look back, turn away and look back. If you do that, your brain will actually take a new snapshot and you will see that extra S in the email address that shouldn't be there. You will see the misspelling, the bad grammar in the email body that can be an indicator that it's fraud, okay? So I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions on anything I've covered so far? Give a second here, not see anything. If you have questions, please type them in. Now I'm going to talk about cyber insurance. And this is something that you all need to have. If you are running a business and you do not have cyber insurance, then I would hope you have at least $3 million in the bank to pay for the cyber event when it happens. Average cost of a cyber event is about 2.2, all the way up to about $8 million. So unless you have that cash reserve on hand, I would highly advise you to have cyber coverage. Not all coverage is equal. So as you're exploring your coverage, it's very important to know what they will and will not cover. Will they pay for recovery? Will they pay for forensic investigation? Will they pay for credit monitoring? Are you responsible for anything? So a lot of insurance providers put clauses in that exclude you from coverage. One of those big red flag clauses is what we call the callback clause. What this says is that if you get a phishing email and you did not pick up the phone and call the person, but you click the link and you get ransomware, that's your fault, your problem, and the insurance company will not cover you. So make sure that you thoroughly understand what's in your insurance coverage. If you're unfamiliar with what you're looking at, work with a partner. The reality is that security is highly specialized work, and you really do need a trusted partner that can help you navigate this. So unless you're completely comfortable running and managing your IT securely, unless you're completely comfortable with the inner workings of cyber liability insurance, it's highly advisable to use a security partner. They're going to help you stay out of those weeds. They're going to help you avoid those pitfalls. And ultimately, it's going to help you and your customers be more safe. So with a security partner, what you're looking for is someone that understands. And when we talk about security, there's lots of names. You've heard the term cybersecurity. You've heard the term information security, network security, IT security. It's all the same thing. So find a partner that does this specialized work to help you navigate this. Having a partner is going to help you catch things before they become issues. The average time from a cyber event to discovery is 285 days. That's 285 days that criminal is free to do whatever they want with your system, with your data. That's 285 days that you have no idea something's going on that could impact you or your customers. So having a security partner working with you can help you catch these issues before they become big problems that wind up in news stories or problems that cause you to be financially insolvent and close your business. A good security partner is going to be in the fight with you. They're going to be in that corner fighting alongside you. They're not going to be standing on the outside saying, well, sorry, we just monitor things. So you want to find a partner that's going to fight the fight with you. Taking security seriously and working with a security partner is going to help increase the trust that your customers have with you. Customers are becoming more savvy by the day about privacy and about data security, and they want assurances that you're taking all the steps that you can to protect their information. The best way to do that is by putting that responsibility in the hands of a licensed security professional who operates under a code of ethics. And then you can assure your customers that you're working with the best in the business and that they are doing everything possible to keep you safe. So to recap, to do the COVID recovery recap, we want to make sure that we've secured our network, that we've limited access to our devices, and that we've protected those devices through updates and patches. This is really the number one thing that you can do as a small business. Now, if there are more IT-minded folks on the call that would like to have a more technical discussion, I'm happy to do that. If anyone has any deep technical questions, I'm happy to answer that. I did intentionally keep this non-technical for a reason, and that is that cybersecurity and information security is a highly complex, highly specialized thing, and really is best served being done by those licensed professionals. That's your best bet to being safe and secure. We do this all the time. A lot of us are very comfortable plunging a toilet or unclogging a sink drain, but if the street sewer line has an issue, we're probably calling in the professionals. Looks like I have a question here. Cybersecurity insurance policies are not generally bundled in the umbrella. You may have a cyber, so there's two ways this goes. In the umbrella policy, there may be something that refers to cyber, but a lot of times that's actually referring to the physical equipment itself. So if you have fire or flood, tornado, natural disaster, or riot, they will pay for the replacement of the equipment. But that does not cover forensics investigations, data recovery activities, credit monitoring for the affected customers, PR, legal, these types of things. Those are covered under a cyber liability rider, and it's almost always a separate insurance policy, separate rider. The three I will tell you, Chubb is a good one, so Chubb Insurance. Marsh McLennan is another good one, and a group out of Wisconsin. Oh gosh, their name escapes me at the moment. I'll have to think about that for a second more. They're a relatively smaller org, but they're really good. They operate with a high standard of ethics. And I'll put together something formal and I'll send that to the folks here on the call today. I'll send a follow-up email, and that can be disseminated out to you guys. So lastly, I'm going to talk about the S2Me. S2Me is that free personal risk assessment. I encourage you to do this. I encourage you to have your employees do this. Even the best security professionals in the world, when they take this assessment, and it's relatively short, it's about 15 minutes, find that there's areas to improve. Nobody does this perfect. Nobody can do this perfect. But the more aware you are of what your risks are, the more likely you are to be able to prevent them and defend against them. And it is truly free. There is no catch at all. We do collect some data, but we do not use any personal information ever to market or sell or anything like that. And if you're not comfortable with that, make up some information. We're totally cool with that too. You can make up a fake name and you can make up a fake email. We're totally okay with that because we'd rather you become more aware of what your risks are and what you can do to solve for them. So with that, I'm gonna go to questions.
Ryan, this is John McAdam from Widener SPDC. Can you hear me?
Yes, how's it going, John?
Good. Thanks for doing what you did today. Good stuff. I have a question. I have a general liability policy as a management consultant, and it includes cybersecurity, like data breach limits. I've got a privacy liability claim limit of 50,000, aggregate of 50, data breach of 10, aggregate of 10, maximum policy aggregate 60. What do you think? Need more?
Yep. So what I would look at in that policy, and I have to make a disclaimer, I'm not an insurance agent. I am not licensed as an insurance agent in any state. So everything I give you is anecdotal. Having said that, a lot of times the gotchas are that the aggregates will drop out. So yeah, I got 50,000 of this and 10,000 of that and this, but my total aggregate's actually only 75,000 or 100,000. The minimum that I recommend anyone carry is $2 million. That is the absolute minimum that any business should carry for their policy. And that should represent your total aggregate. You know, as you break it down, you know, one of the sketchy things about insurance is they like to hide things. Yep, you're covered for this, you're covered for this, you're covered for that. But when it comes time to actually apply it, well, you kind of already spent all the money from this one bucket. And you're like, but I need all the buckets. Well, sorry. So make sure that your total aggregate is at 2 million or more. And then I would advise that each, so for example, forensics, you should have at least $100,000 in coverage. Or data recovery, you need at least 75,000 as the cap on that. Credit reporting, credit monitoring, these types of things, you're going to want about $150,000 to a $200,000 cap, given the number of customers you have. The best way to do the formula for what you need is number of customers you have data on times $250. the cost of their data on average is about $250 is what you're going to come out of pocket to address any data breach with their data. That would be, legal fees and follow up.
Well, you already know more about cybersecurity insurance than my insurance agent, so I think you should get your license.
Well, it helped that I helped design a few plans with some insurance agents because I saw a lot of stuff out there I didn't like. And that was kind of my motivator. And you can feel free to hit me up offline. I'm happy to put you in touch with some people.
Well, I've been breached 3 times. Russia, China, and what was that other country? It was about 6,000 in total damage.
That's actually pretty low. You fared well there.
I have a small business. It's a small business. I'm a management consultant, so I just wasn't sure if I needed more.
Again, number of humans. So the math I always use is number of humans that I have data on, and then I times that by $250, and whatever that number comes up to is generally what I'm going to need should I have a catastrophic failure. And that's always what I'm planning for. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of this is planning for that worst case scenario, right? Planning for the ransomware event, planning for. Now, I'm going to give you a pro tip. You can prevent ransomware by doing 2 things. 2 things that will guarantee that you prevent ransomware. The first is make backups of your system and store them offline, completely offline, on a thumb drive, on a CD-ROM, DVD, somewhere not accessible to any computer network or the internet. That's number 1. Number 2, practice that anti-scam avoidance that I taught you at the beginning. Really be very, very, very cautious about what you install and what you click. Doing those 2 things will prevent you from being attacked by ransomware. So the question was about a terabyte separate drive. Is that enough space? It all depends on how much data you have. Just to give you perspective, in my home, I run about a petabyte of data. I have a lot of information. I was a professional photographer in a former life. I host some things for my friends overseas that don't have access to American networks. How many terabytes? That's 1,000. It's 1,000 terabytes in a petabyte. So, for your backups, you want to make sure you have enough, and that's going to be relative to how many computers you have. And again, this is where I strongly advise work with a partner who can help you navigate this stuff quickly and cost effectively. There are lots of good folks out there. Again, if you contact me offline, I'm happy to make some recommendations for ones that are, very affordable, but operate with the right set of ethics. That's a big thing with me. Anybody I refer to you has to have a certain level of ethics, or I won't do business with them. What other questions do we have? You can ask the hacker anything you want to know. And you guys are always feel free, follow up with Jolie. She has my contact info. If you have questions that come up after this, if you wanted more of a technical deep dive and you didn't get that today, let me know that stuff. I'm always happy to work with you guys. I will find time. I will make time to answer your questions because it's very important to me and my personal mission in life that you get better at this, that we all get better at this, and I will invest in that as much as I humanly can. If you are of a more technical nature and you're curious about cyber, there is a YouTube show that I run on Thursday nights that you can check out called The Security Shit Show. And that will be a look under the cover at the hackers talk about. What do we think about it? So if you have any interest in that, that's something you can find out there as well.
Can you hear me right now,
yes.
Ryan? Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple questions. I'm pretty new to this. So like 26 years old, I just started a business in November 2019. I incorporated it. So I've got no sales yet, nothing like that. But I'm just trying to start to be aware of everything. I'm planning to sell through Amazon, maybe someday a Shopify account. are they more responsible for the security side of it since I'm kind of using their channels, or do I still need to kind of take a lot of steps on my end as well for the security side of things?
Yep. So you are ultimately still responsible, and you do need to take a lot of steps. What is nice is because you're using Amazon, things like protecting credit card information, that will be on them. Things like protecting the invoices that are generated in their system, that will be on them. You still have to protect the accounts that allow you to log into Amazon. You still have to protect the devices that you use to access it. So you do get to transfer a little bit of that risk to them, but you still do have that ultimate responsibility.
Okay. So next question then would be when you talked about switching the admin password on the router, things like that. Like we have a password to use the Wi-Fi. Is that the same thing, or it's a little bit different?
Yep, it's different. I
Okay.
actually built a guide on this. Let me pull it up and I'll put the link in. I actually made a how-to guide because I got asked so many times about this. Like, hey, how the heck do I do this? I want to do this, but nobody can explain it in a way that makes sense. So I built a literal step-by-step guide on how to secure your home computer, your smartphone, your Wi-Fi router. And you can find that here. And I don't collect the email for that, so you can actually just download the documents direct. There's no catch to any of that. And it'll walk you through step-by-step how to go about doing it.
Awesome. So one final question here. It's a little trickier, but so because I'm starting the new business, I was starting to try to secure the social username handles on different social media sites. One of them was Instagram, and I didn't follow anybody. I had no followers. I haven't posted anything. I didn't even tell anybody other than my mother about the business. So it's not like anybody knew. There was no activity, but I'm locked out of it now. The email is different, so I feel like it was hacked and switched. I've tried contacting Instagram. They're not getting back to me. I didn't know, would you know of a way to get in contact through a support line? Or I'm also worried, are they able to monitor things I'm doing now because someone else maybe has access to that? I didn't have it linked to a Facebook page or anything. The only thing was I didn't have the two-factor authentication set up yet. And I think I had, at the time, had the same password as the Gmail that I used to set it up. But those are the only two things that I can think of. I mean, I grew up with the internet, so I'm pretty aware of being able to spot like phishing or things like that. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but you know, I've had a lot of experience what looks fake and whatnot. So I don't recall doing anything like that. It really threw me for a loop here. So I didn't know if you had any insight on that. I do have a friend who does IT, and he said it just might have been a part of some kind of a data leak or something.
Yes.
So yeah, is there anything I could do, or?
So yeah, so step one, if you're ever in question, if you even suspect something might be off, go ahead and reset your passwords. That's a good habit to have. Just go ahead and do it if you suspect something's off. You're doing the right things. I mean, all you can do when it comes to social media accounts is continue to follow up with the account providers. So continue to follow up with Instagram. They do actually have a phone number. They make this stuff hard to find. Let's see.
Yeah, since then, while you're looking for that, I put two-factor authentication on all my accounts and switched passwords, and I've done all that now. So I did take those steps. It's just now I'm bummed because I was so excited to get that username. It's rare when you can get it across all platforms.
Right.
And now I don't quite have access to it. So I'm like,
So what I would do, I just put the phone number for Instagram. So their actual, get a human on the phone number, call it, work with them.
Okay.
They'll make you jump through a bunch of hoops. You're gonna have to verify a bunch of stuff. You may have to physically mail photocopies of things to them, but they will work with you to get that dealt with.
That's awesome. I appreciate you so much. This
Yeah, no
was a
problem.
great class.
Good. And just for me, for feedback, you know, if you guys want another session where we go deeper into a particular topic, where it's more technical in nature, anything like that, let Jolene know. She'll let me know. I'm happy to put this on for you guys. Like I said, I did keep it kind of high level because I figured we probably had a pretty mixed audience. But anybody that's interested in diving deeper, you know, feel free to reach out. Definitely happy to help you.
Just to wrap up, I want to say thank you to Ryan for being here with us today and sharing your insights and fielding some questions. We really appreciate it. It was very, very informative. Just a few housekeeping notes from my end. I will be making available the recording of this training on the Wilkes University SBDC YouTube channel, and I will email that link to all attendees. And also I will be emailing the link to a post-event survey so that we can determine which of our resources will best suit your needs and what topics you would like to see from us in the future. And with that, I want to thank everyone for attending this training. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at the SBDC. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing all of you at future webinars. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.